to the corporate talk. Today I have a special guest to talk about data analytics and AI in the business. It's Rodrigo. Rodrigo, thank you so much for being part of the corporate talk today. Thank you for joining. I'm very happy to have you here. Could you introduce a little bit about yourself and your extensive career in AI and data analytics?
All right, sure. First of all, Carol, thanks very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be able to talk to you. My name is Rodrigo Coutinho, like people outside of Brazil call me Rod. I am an aeronautical engineer by trade. You can call me rocket scientist once upon a time, long time ago. And I've been working in the space of called choose the acronym that you want. Data science, data mining, artificial intelligence, analytics, what have you, for close to 30 years now, 29 years and a bit. And I've done pretty much, I like to say I've done pretty much everything under the sun with every single platform, every single coding, every single industry and so forth. So yeah, it is a pleasure to be able to be here and share with you guys a little bit of this experience that I have and have a very interesting conversation.
Nice. Thank you, Rodrigo. And you mentioned you have a very large career in Asia, in South America, also with companies around the globe. You also build your own company now to support the companies who is struggling with that exactly because of this large experience you have. So the companies, they are looking for that. It's a very competitive environment overall in the industry, and we see it very tough moment in many industries currently with different players, with different prices, with different data access and so on. And do you believe there is still some misconception of in the companies about the use of data, or when we talk about market intelligence, how do they make better use of this competition landscape and how to use this data in a better way?
Oh, sure. Actually, following from what you said, yes. I have experience both with large multinationals, large conglomerates, and startups and smaller companies, especially with my own now. And something that's quite common across the board, across culture, across geographies, across industry. Three major problems that companies usually face. First of all, they think it's all magic, and it's not a process. And let's do some AI. Someone back then, let's do some data mining. Let's do some analytics, and then, ta-da! Everything happens. Now it's not magic; it is a process. Secondly, people assume that they are, or executives primarily, they assume they are all at the required maturity level to do proper data mining, create models, deploy those models, learn from the market dynamics, and make better business decisions as a result. That's often not the case. They assume maturity is a given when maturity actually is a learning path. All right. And then again, what kind of resources they should apply to it, what they should think about it, how they're going to structure. And then again, remember, it is a process. You have to develop your maturity. You have to bring people, bring tools, bring understanding of the business to develop that. So something that's quite common, not clearly visible to executives. So yeah, just magic. Just come in. I don't have to worry about it. I click a button, everything happens. I will know everything. No, there is a path. It's not magic. So that's the first thing.
And when you talk about data, that's very interesting. This whole misconception about the data or the AI being the magic that is coming now, all the solutions are coming out of it. When we talk about data, then we can see the data as internal data of the company, but also external data, right? That currently is out there, but today how to mine all of this information, how to make a really good data-driven decision with so many information around the globe. So this is the secret piece, right, of this
Yes, pretty
process.
much. understand that data. People say data is the new oil. Yes, in a sense, but people don't realize that data is far more than that. Like I said, we have internal data and external data of the company. I like to say that the three different types, right, of data. We have your own internal data, and that the structure on structure your data banks, your databases, and so forth, numbers. They did already structured. You have your tax reports, your customer reports, your analysis, and Word documents, PDFs, and the like. That's actually 4 times as big as your structured data. And you have your external data. So you have social media, suppliers, vendors, customers, competitors, and the forth. And I like to say there's a third type, right? That is equipment data, like the proverbial IoT, Internet of Things, which is far more. And nobody uses that in the context that it should be using. But there's a lot of information, Rod. Yeah, sure. You have 20,000 employees in the company and managing, I don't know, 20 to 200 million devices worldwide, collecting data every second. That's a lot of data. But if you consider that as a particular piece of data that adds up to the whole understanding, the whole storytelling that you try to convey, makes a lot of difference. And again, what I mentioned before, maturity, it's not like done. I have everything. It is a maturity path. There's an evolution, so to speak.
That's very good. And also, when we tackle this topic of maturity, company maturity in the data know-how, or how to handle the data analytics itself, do you feel your experience is very international? So do you believe there are differences, for example, how the Asian culture see this data analytics, this market perspective from different parts of the globe?
Yes, culture does play a lot, right? And it's quite interesting because, then again, let's take a step back. Culture is a reflection on how you see yourself and how you see society and how everybody works. And of course, data science, artificial intelligence, and so forth, fits within this context. So, as a rule of thumb, and then here I'm going to be stereotypical, right? Play with stereotypes a lot on purpose. So I do apologize in advance. But if you look at the Oriental Eastern side, so we're talking about Southeast Asia, China, Japan, to a certain extent, Australia, New Zealand, because of migration as well, right? They are more focused on the society as a whole, on the group, right? That they understand better that analytics is about understanding a problem. So looking at the problem, identifying that as a problem, understanding the problem, and tackling that as a whole. Not only the whole of the problem, but if it is relevant enough, allowing you to tackle it, bring whole of company resources to tackle that, right? So the impact of having the magic issue that we've been talking about is much less prominent. While in the West, so talking about Europeans to a certain extent, Americans primarily, South Americans as well. Yeah, no, I want something quick and dirty. Just get me over this edge, and then I will have time to look at it later, and then so they always try to manage tomorrow, or today and tomorrow. In the East, it's quite long. Okay, so what's the problem? Does this problem, this problem will take us 18 months to tackle. So let's start now and develop a path to solve it in 18 months. In Americas, primarily in the West and Europe to a certain extent, it is you try to manage the liability so you don't work as much as you need. It's more individualistic because I want to solve my problem now and not solve the company's problem. I want to solve this a little bit, do a nice PowerPoint, move on, get credit with my boss. Next item, next item, next item. So that's quite typical in terms of dichotomies of how to handle things. Of course, both ways are valid, but they lead, playing the long game, they lead to very different outcomes.
Yeah, I have the same impression that different parts of the world, they have different fears or ways to handle these data, and also in this data security topic. So here in Europe, I think at least in Germany, we see a more fear of where are the suppliers, where the data is going to, and where is it going to be processed, who is going to have access to this. So then delays a little bit this maturity, like you mentioned, of the companies in having these data science in place, and really something that runs faster, like
Yeah.
in the US and China, right? I think it's a different
Yeah,
perspective.
actually, that's a very good point, because all this hinges on the ownership and the relevance of the data, or the value of data, or ownership and value. Okay. Uh, Back in the beginning of social media, nobody gave value, and the ownership was designed to be not yours, not mine, but the social media company's ownership. So the asset, the data point reflecting your behavior at that particular point in time, was owned by the company, by a company, right? Name it who you will. And the value was thought to be negligible, close to zero, or actually zero. Who am I? I'm nobody's. So yeah, what I'm posting, what I'm liking, who I'm connecting with is irrelevant, has zero value, right? But when you realize, and then again, we have structures like the GDPR, LGPD here in Brazil, which is a Portuguese version, a Brazilian version of GDPR in Europe, especially in Germany. The focus is completely different. The focus of ownership is back to the individual. It's my data, it's my behavior, it's my input, so it's mine. It's not from the companies anymore. And so that's the first shift. The second shift is whether you like it or not, your data has value. It's yours and it has value. But if someone wants to use, okay, if you want to give them for free, it's your prerogative, it's yours. But if you want to sell it, if you want, or therefore restrict the access to your valuable information, it's also your prerogative. So there is this mind shift, this conceptual thinking change that has been happening quite significantly over the last 5 years, give or take. The beginning of GDPR. GDPR now is really coming to, I would say, early maturity phase. People will be realizing, oh boy, the fines that the EU applied to some big techs are massive. I have to consider that very clearly. And in Brazil, we are getting to that level as well. And same thing. In Asia, same thing. So the data is valuable, especially when you add multiple data points together. And then you have 50 million data points and say, oh boy, yes, I can use that for a lot of things. That for ownership and value of data.
Very important. And this needs to be part of every strategy of this process, right? When the company is going to implement a market intelligence, data analytics process, where the data is going to be stored and who will have access. So this is very, very critical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For the individual, the value and the ownership are critical. For an enterprise that pretty much lives off that, is fundamental. It's like
It's
a
fundamental.
5-volt tail. You have to address that and address that properly. Exactly. So how are you going to store? Who has access to it? What is your retrieval technology, your retrieval process, your backup process, your maintaining process of that, your maintenance of that? So in 5 years' time, you
True.
can go back and revisit a whole bunch of stuff.
That's true. And as you work already 30 years in this area, do you see that AI now that it's exploding of access? We already use privately in a daily way. We have our chatbots overall. We don't Google anymore. We use ChatGPT, for example, for many things. And now it's also part of the companies, right? It's integrating to the company systems. The employees can use the chat as well. Do you see this is changing completely the way data analytics is working? Are there dangers as well? How do you see this explosion of AI that was very
Okay.
much
All
intense?
right.
Yeah.
Let's take a step back. AI is primarily, especially the ones that we look at, the first phase, so to speak. I'll say like ChatGPT and the like. So you have several others there, and you have the DeepSeek likes, right? The Chinese and the Asians. They are quite different in their own concepts, how they process data. Okay, so let's look at the original one. So like the Chat GPT and the like, Gemini's and the like. They are based on training on very massive data sets. But then again, they are given massive data sets. They're given like libraries of data without much guidance. Yes, you train the model and you build up models on additional data and you build up and you have, if you remember the last, especially 3 to 4 years, a lot of talk that AI is racist, it's misogynistic, because the data sets they were trained on, they had that bias. Or so we fed the wrong data. No, not exactly that we fed the wrong data. Just like a child was not given proper context. So we have to understand that limitation, right? That's the first point. The second point is if you get an LLM, large language models, which are based on that, and they are restricted to the corpus that you gave them. We gave them a lot of that. People say we're going to give them the totality of human knowledge. Okay, let's assume that's possible. How do you understand the totality of human knowledge? How do you understand sarcasm without being taught? How do you understand bias? And asking a psychologist, cognitive bias exists, it is real, and affects a lot of your analysis at any intelligence agency as well. So how do you play for that? Do you have specific models, specific aspects of your model to take that into consideration? Well, I don't think I have, or if I do, it's such a black box. I cannot specifically say that's components taking care of that. So being in the business for 30 years, I'm very concerned about trusting too much in black boxes. I am pretty much, and I'm going to tell you this a couple of times today probably, I'm very much a KISS kind of guy. Keep it simple, stupid. So that's a simpler mode of doing that. Let's use the simpler model. Let's keep it simple. Okay? So yeah, I still have my own bias towards those LLMs and what they can truly do and what's the true benefit. Of course, automating tasks, perfect. But then again, you agree with me there's a few things more useless than automating something that should not be done. So probably should have a good look at the process, take a couple steps back. Do I really need to do this process? Or if I go back, fix on the back here, none of this is required anymore. So I fix here and it's done. I don't have to take all the way. So,
Yeah.
that's my cynical
And
aspect.
but that's very interesting. Automation of data processes, for example, RPAs, robots, you still have control of the data, right? You program and then you have a process that are optimized inside of data processing, analysis, or even preparation of other analysis. So then you still have control. When it goes to AI, it's also about, well, every company has their training for all the employees about compliance, about ethics, how to handle the data security of the company, or even those emails we receive, don't click on links. This is very old trainings since many years that the employees also are responsible for what they receive, what they do, how did they reply. And I think for AI enters in this perspective as well. If everyone have access to chats or chatbots, and then they can use this data, they also have to be responsible how to use this data, be a critical mind, right, to evaluate the output of the AI itself. And yeah, I think this is something to be learned.
Yeah. Again, like I said in the beginning, it's about maturity of the process. You cannot take that as a given.
Exactly.
If you allow yourself, say, okay, I need to learn as I go along. Yes, that's exactly what you just said. I totally agree.
Well, and about this maturity level, for example, there are many companies that are much earlier in this finding the value of their data, right? So there are companies that are much earlier in this process. Let's maybe bring this up. Do you think you have the engineer to data, a company that is bringing this 30 years experience in many industries around the globe, Asia, South America? And how do you help a company who have no idea where to start from there, or has no really data science inside? Do you have a structure? How do you support companies in this low maturity level? They're maybe far away from even thinking about implementing AI in-house. They just the first
Well,
steps. Yeah.
look, we take care of three key aspects of that. First of all, we sit down for consultancy and conversation. What are your key problems keeping you awake at night? And this situation. So try to understand the problem and then solving that problem with analytics. So it could be, for argument's sake, um, I am a manufacturing company. I'm producing this with tariffs now and other business constraints, global business constraints. My costs are coming out, are going up. So I have to be able to produce uh, as effective as I possibly can with quality, but matching my demand. So my supply demand equation has to be very well balanced because otherwise I will have to carry inventory that affects my cash flow and so forth, and I cannot afford that right now. Okay, so suppose that's the problem. So what's the percentage? So, okay, so let's do a sales forecast. Let's do a customer segmentation. Let's understand what your buyers are likely to buy from you if you do nothing, and then what, based on your own attributes, what you should be selling, what would you like to be selling, right? So all this I'm describing very quickly several difficult, complex models to my job. So let's assume for the time being that's all taken care of. And the company said, oh, geez, that's brilliant. But I think that's proprietary information. I should be able to do that. Rod, can engineer to data teach us how to do that? Yes, we can. So comes the second aspect of mentorship, training, and so forth, where we can usually as early as the beginning of the first phase of the first process, we start bringing people along and showing them how we handle data, what infrastructure, what are the processes of artificial intelligence, analytics, and the like, data science, uh, how to read models, how to interpret models, dashboards, how to bring all these to actionable insights, decisions that actually support the business and so forth. Okay, so that's the second part. The third part is going around all this because no company fits isolated in the pool. So they are interacting with suppliers, new entrants, government, competitive customers. So how do you do competitive intelligence? Not only looking at your competitors, but looking at the environment that you are in. That understanding also, and of course, it's into your model. Because if you're planning on doing nothing and this product will be highly required, you have a very high demand, but your competitor also notice that it is the highest demand, you might want to do that. So you have to produce less because you're losing market share. I don't want to lose market share. So how do you do how do you not lose market share? So I like to say there are four pillars: market, promotions, product, right? And of course, you have price. And then how you play in the competitors, how you play around with those to develop that or to deliver that.
Mhm.
But then again, going back to the beginning, all those aspects, product, promotions, competitors, right? And market, how do you handle all those? It is analytics, it's data science. The model, they are weaved within those, and they can make one area like market and promotion talk together. You have market and competitors talking together, product and competitors talking together, all four of them talking together. So that makes a hell of a difference. So that's pretty much the idea of our offering. And then again, in my 30 years of experience, that's really what saved me time and time again. So let's call it a time-proven strategy.
That's really good to hear. And Rodrigo, I'm very curious personally if you're also offering those trainings, because you mentioned you do consulting in companies, you implement them or teach them how to implement, you mentor and you train. This training can also be for private people. For example, I would have interest.
No, absolutely. It's not only company-based. It's also we have primarily um, three audiences. One are companies. So as part of the development or the handover process, so we make sure that whatever it was done can be replicated, can be scalable, and can be evolved by themselves. Right. The other the other two audiences are analysts. That, for instance, I am a junior analyst. What do I need to know, or how can I grow my technical abilities or my soft and hard skills to become a senior engineer, a senior analyst, a data science manager, and so forth? That's the technical evolution, methods, codes, and so forth. We don't actually code for them, don't teach them code. We take that for granted, but to understand which model you have to use, how to solve particular problems, and so forth. And the other audience are for executives. So congratulations. Now you are VP for analytics, and you come from a non-technical area, or you inherited in your new promotion an area that handles that kind of work. What do I need to know? How do I leverage that very, let's say it, expensive resource? How can I have a return on investment on analytics? Because that's something that nobody talks about. Let's do it.
It's true.
Let's do analytics. And then again, remember, it's not magic. It is a process. And as a process, you have a return on investment. So for
Yeah.
executives, how to use that, how to pitch that. And I have a very interesting military metaphor for that. Data science teams, they are the sharp end of the spear. If you don't know how to use the spear, that's going to become blunt. If you use the spear in the wrong place, it will become blunt. If you don't use the spear, you're wasting money. So exactly how to use that. You don't need to know how to sharpen the spear or know how the metal is done, how the tip is made, but it is a spear. So it's a whole concept of several parts integrating themselves for a common purpose, which is then again, there's the whole idea of analytics. Okay, so there are those
And
three audiences that we take care of.
And I think this is very rich because everywhere I look around data analytics, they focus on programming. And when we talk about executives or even strategy managers, market intelligence managers, they are not the programmers. They want to use the data or learn about the process, like you mentioned, how to use it in a better way to create this strategy inside the company, to make it as a process. So I think here is the really you found a very nice niche that I think it's missing in the market because it's everything we search about data analytics goes to programming.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right? Do you have the same impression? Yeah.
yeah. And so that time and time again, we're gonna go do. We went through a process in house or for a customer and the like, and we're gonna do a very executive presentation. So, and the storytelling, what the audience wants, they want to know, they know the problem, or they have the idea of understanding of the problem. So, what that understanding really is, what the problem really is, what are the solutions, what they need to know about, what they should be care about. That's pretty much it. And then the analyst comes in with 35 pages of hard code, and you go, boy, girl, don't, for God's sake, don't. And people say, what does that mean? I don't know how to program. What the hell is this? And what's gibberish? And said, no, okay, so let's go through it. The problem is this. We solved and we broke that into 3 or 4 segments with their own particular behavior. So it's doing the story. So that's what they want to know. Talking about why that segment behaves like this. Because this, and this. Never mind, they have 300 pages of hard code running on a server somewhere, processing terabytes, petabytes of data. Nobody cares. The executives, nobody cares. So, yeah, that's, oh, yeah, but I have all the code here. It's documented. It's beautiful. Cool. Not on the audience. So, to match deliverables and audiences is also kind of almost a science, mostly an art.
Very nice, very nice. Well, Rodrigo, let's close this call. I think we can take really hours talking about this topic. It's really fascinating, and I think it has a really huge value in the market right now. And let's close with a career tip for somebody or recommendations that you have for somebody who wants to start a career in strategy planning, data analytics, use of AI. Um, for somebody who is starting now, do you have some piece of advice, honest piece for
Oh, yeah.
them when they want to go for this path?
Yeah, okay. So, for you that's starting now in strategic planning, AI, analytics, the like, programming, and the like, 3 little things. First and foremost, be curious. Ask yourself, why is that? Curiosity did not kill the cat here. Okay, maybe thrive. You have to be curious. First one. Second one, be humble. You don't know what you're gonna find, and trust that whatever you see, if it's really correct, and you're confident that it's correct, it will show you something new that you can learn from it. Always. I've been doing this for 30 years. Sometimes I do a project, and oh boy, I didn't expect that. So exercise humility, be humble. And third, last but definitely not least, kiss. Keep it simple. Please. Keep it simple. That's the biggest piece of advice I provide to people that starting over. And because it's quite simple. Oh yeah, because they're gonna do a Gen AI to solve, dude. A simple rule will fix that. Please, come on. Wake up, smell the flowers, keep it simple. For me,
I
that's
love
the trick.
it. I really love it. Wow, thank you so much, Rodrigo. I really love it. And I think you will bring a lot of nice insights for the ones who are watching us. Thank you so much for being part today. I'm
My
also
pleasure.
very happy to announce that Rodrigo is a new host of the Corporate Talk. So we will see him more often here, which is a great pleasure for me and a great honor. Thank you so much for being part of this project and make it grow.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you very much for that. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And then it means we will see you soon in a next video around.
That's for sure.
Thank you for joining. Then have a nice day ahead.
Likewise. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for your time, and we shall talk soon.